You are looking at a self-portrait done by master mime and teacher Tony Montanaro of himself in a somewhat shamanic aspect. You are listening to a piece of pan flute music Tony used in a wondrous mime he performed of Pan, in which he totally transformed into the satyr or forest god and transfixed the audience as they saw the marvelous joy of life Pan experienced in nature to be foreshadowed with the dark encroachment at the forest edges of civilization. Tony Montanaro was a poet, a mime nonpareil, and a tremendously inspired and inspiring teacher. Many of his students stayed with him as apprentices for decades, as he inspired personal style theater, drawing the best out of each of us. The improvisation he taught was his own unique invention. This video attempts to explore the roots of this elusive process as he taught it. It is divided into 3 parts. Part 1 is a panel discussion among 4 of his apprentices. Part 2 are preparatory exercises for improvisation, and Part 3 are attempts to scale the Montanaro mountain of improv.
Welcome. We're about to have an exciting journey, an exploration of improvisation in the Montanaro style, led by Bernie Kramer. Bernie.
Hi. Tony Montanaro had a very unique approach to improvisation, almost akin to being a shaman in a wild, unexplored world of the unconscious. We're going to be looking more closely at the process and how to achieve what Tony achieved. What Tony taught us, filtered through many years of experience, we're presenting to you today. We're calling it Riding Pegasus. Today we're going to be celebrating the spirit of improvisation as taught by Tony Montanaro. I'm joined by Karen Montanaro, his wife of many years, Rick Adam, and Leland Faulkner. Both Lee and Rick and Karen and myself have had a long association with Tony, and we're deeply imbued with the process of improvisation, as you will see. Leland Faulkner, when did you first start studying with Tony?
1974. I was 16. I had my 17th birthday at the barn, and I was skinny as a rail. I looked like a branch on an apple tree.
He did.
And I was young and naive, and I knew nothing about how to perform. And Tony opened up all those doors of technique and, of course, improvisation. But mostly just it was the imparting of his wisdom that still talks to me today. And I work mostly as a comedy magician and a storyteller. Yeah.
Great. I remember when you were on the, we were both on a rock face.
Oh yeah.
You remember this? And but you were so lithe, you were almost like a spider navigating the surface of the contours of the rock at that time.
I was very lithe. Now I have artificial knees and a semi-intact brain, though.
But you're matured in the process.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah. Tony's process talks to me all the time before I walk out on stage. Mm-hmm. I used to watch Tony before he'd walk out on stage, and how he'd just like premise himself, and he'd go. And then he owned that stage. And I always really admired how he could do that. And so I strive to do that.
Rick.
Yes.
You and I both started about the same time, right?
Yeah, I started, I came here I went to the barn in 1973 or so, and I had my background was music and theater, and I wanted to take my songs and move with them. And Tony gave me the tools to be able to improvise and use movement, but he also gave me permission to break silence, which, being a singer-songwriter, I wanted to have movement, and I liked my movement, but I also wanted to be able to make sound, and I didn't want to wear whiteface. So, Tony gave me that permission to do it, and also the venue, to the barn itself became a place of exploration, and then I worked with him with his first children's troupe, and
Yes,
that
I remember when I first met you, you were in Pinocchio.
Yes, I was.
Pinocchio.
I was
in Pinocchio.
I was Pinocchio for a couple of years, and working with Tony in that way and seeing how his mind worked. And I also agree with Lee. Watching Tony come onto stage in front of the audience, and what amazed me was during his warm-up, he would by the end of the warm-up, he would be friends with every single person in that audience. He would have a way of connecting with them, and they all felt that they were his friend, and that was just phenomenal to watch. And every time I walk onto stage, I'm always influenced by his spirit.
And Karen, you have a wonderful story to tell how you met Tony.
Yeah, it's a long story, but I'll shorten it. I was 27 when we met, and I was just getting out of the ballet world, and I was really lost. I didn't know that world is so rigid in its definition of perfection and what you should be and right and wrong, and I was so steeped in that mentality that I was really in trouble psychologically. I had bouts of anorexia, depression, anxiety, and I met Tony at a rehearsal for the Nutcracker. I was playing the Sugar Plum Fairy, and he was Drosselmeyer, and he proposed practically immediately. But one thing I remember that Tony was the first person ever, and I had a really successful ballet career, but he was the first person to tell me that I should express myself when I move. And I didn't know what he meant. I didn't know what he meant. And it's amazing to me that I didn't know what that meant. And I consider myself the luckiest person in the world. I had 15 years with Tony. I felt like there were 15 years in incubation, where he just slowly, lovingly unwound all these rigid strictures on my impulses that I'd accumulated. So I know it sounds melodramatic, but I think Tony saved my life.
Well, I think we've all felt liberated by Tony's working with our creative process, and I know in my own case, I did a lot of poetry, did a lot of clowning, storytelling, the whole gamut because of all the years I spent with Tony. It was, but the improvisation process was always, he touched on it glancingly, and it was elusive, kind of elusive, and very, very luscious, something that you really wanted to grab a hold of. And part of the reason we're here today is that we were exploring this improvisation process and trying, in a way, to sum up some of the inner workings of it, not prescribed.
I think that when most people think of improvisation today, because of their exposure to improvisation on television and that sort of thing, they always think of it as being only comical. But Tony's approach to it was that it could be everything, both comic and tragic and everything in between.
Right.
And so it wasn't just to get a laugh.
No, because once you open that door of the unconscious, how it manifests could be anything in the wide universe. Anything could come out there on that stage, and to the surprise not only of the viewer but also to the person who's actually creating the improvisation. It's this sort of a being thrown off the cliff into some new world. And I think getting a handle on that is great a great thing to be able to do. So I think we've all come a long way with it, and
I think also part of it is that it's a path of exploration and finding out what is inside of us as opposed to just going for laughs. We're actually just being selfish in the way that we're trying to find out what are all my possibilities. And it does go into a very personal spiritual realm when you're working with trying to explore all of these parts of who we are, because we're told we're this, and all of a sudden we become the universe.
I remember in the early days, we would try and get Tony to, let's do some improv. Let's do improv, Tony. And Tony would go, maybe next week. And then
it was something that wasn't an everyday thing to touch on the improv.
Right, because it got deep.
It got very deep, and it was heady, and but it's like getting wet in the mist,
Right. And when I was younger, I wanted to. He'd say, you need more edges, meaning facets. You need to have a little more life. You need to have a little more experience. You need to have a little more. You need to have the facets to define yourself a little bit more. If you don't have those, it's very difficult to improvise well.
So one of the things that might be interesting to touch on is the correlation between improvisation and dreaming, because it seems like dreaming is something that everybody has a
facility,
familiarity with, and to express how, like what you're saying about comedy, it's not just about comedy, it's about the nightmare, it's about the oddness of dreams, and how the oddness of dreams connects you to things that are going on in your life. However, this is like lucid.
Right, yeah.
And that was we had
lucid dreaming with your body on.
Lucid dreaming with your body on. Yeah.
It's a very good point about that dreaming. That we have a tight lid on ourselves in daily life, and in improvisation we loosen that lid to be more in a dream world where the unconscious contents can manifest, and not only our unconscious contents, but also the, as Tony called it, the Akashic records of the entire humanity, because we all share that, all the trauma that's present in the world is shared by the individual, and we're all present to all parts of the universe, even though we think we're in a very discrete package. Our feelers go way out, and improvisation is a place where we can actually extend ourselves. And,
Jung might call that like being able to tap into the collective unconscious.
Absolutely, yeah, he did call that. And I know, Karen, when you seek after the oblique, what you call the oblique, that's a kind of searching after what, while we're doing an improvisation, what lies beyond the periphery of that improvisation. Something. How would you explain it?
Yeah, when Tony died, he really he left us all with this hunger, I think, to know more about where he had been taking us all along. That he was really taking us deep into ourselves, and he had a really hard time telling people what he actually did. Am I a mime? He would call himself a mime, a poet, a director. He did everything. He played golf. He raised strawberries. He
painter.
He was a painter. He couldn't really be pinholed or put in a box. And one time I remember we were at the Celebration Barn. He was teaching class, and he all of a sudden had this revelation, which is what he did a lot. His eyes would turn into, like, they'd get like eagle eyes. He had eagle eyes. And he stopped. He was just in the middle of the class. People were rolling across the floor, and he said, I am desperately interested in the miracle of inspiration. And I remember running and writing that down, that defined Tony, that he was constantly just there to serve this miracle. And you equated it with the Holy Grail, that this container, we're containers for inspiration. And each person is, the way inspiration goes through each of us is so different. So he wasn't trying to make us all look the same or give us all the same skills at all. He barely spent time on skills.
Yeah, he's helping you become yourself.
Right.
But I also never knew anyone with as much joie de vivre as he had. You know, I remember he had this Questar telescope, and he loved watching the bees.
Yes.
You know, building their honeycomb. He thought that was fantastic and amazing, and he'd be fascinated, and he'd study it, and then something would come out of all that fascination, and that influenced his work.
You know, it reminds me of Da Vinci, who he didn't complete a lot of his work, but his main work was just studying and finding out why a hummingbird, studying the tongue of a hummingbird, and just really going into finding out the magic and the mystery in it, and out of that. And I remember Tony when he had a monkey, and he studied this monkey for a period of time, and then after he came out with his own monkey, which was just absolutely breathtaking, and it made the fine line between him and the monkey and any of the characters that he would go into. At some point, I could always still see Tony there, but sometimes it became vague, where you almost could see the essence of the creature that he was connecting with, trying to stretch out of his body.
Well, he was not afraid of committing, and wasn't afraid of risking to become the thing he wanted to be.
Yeah, right. That's exactly it.
I remember him doing the monkey, which was kind of like a gorilla monkey hybrid for a bunch of people, and he sat on the floor, in that position of the monkey, and his eyes looked like monkey eyes. I mean, and they went to a monkey brain. I swear, it was
his whole forehead went away.
And his eyes looked,
Right.
It didn't have the light of a human. It had the light of a monkey behind that.
And same with his eagle. And I watched him do an eagle, dozens and dozens of times over the year, and it never ceased to amaze me where he went. And watching a room with a couple of hundred people transform and go and forget about their world and be totally in his world.
We had to perform together, and he did his chicken at this big mime festival. The Chinese ambassador was sitting there. Everyone looks very kind of like, so let's see your art.
Yeah.
And he does the chicken, and he owned that place when he did his chicken. He owned them. People were laughing. I mean, you don't see a Chinese ambassador smiling much, but there it was.
He wasn't just pretending to be the chicken. He was the chicken. He was enjoying the quality of the chicken.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think it sort of gets back to his concept of absolute zero, getting back to a neutrality where he could actually merge with whatever his imagination fed him. Where Dr. Mishra said, "I am." I am is the concept of not the ego, but the I am relating to the universe. So a total connection with whatever you're relating to. He had that
no separation between the other and yourself.
Right. And it's not so much getting rid of the ego, because he certainly had an ego, but it's the ability to unite with whatever you're reflecting.
There's different kinds of ego, and he was using the higher form of
Higher form of ego.
Infinite ego.
Right.
The I am.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that attracted me also to his approach towards theater and mime was the metaphysics of it. Because it did become very, very metaphysical, where you would take a moment and go into a place of saying, I am this, or I am that. And that, I think that lends itself to a different type of communication, besides just doing movements to trying to do a dumb show for people to guess what you're doing. He went to a place of where you could stand there and do an I am, and people could still know what you're doing, and you're not moving a muscle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that becomes very metaphysical. You're actually communicating in a whole different level to people, which is through spirit and heart.
And he studied deeply Michael Chekhov, to the actor, right? And Michael Chekhov also used that inward sense, to allow yourself to unite with a character, say, and find out what is the character's psychological gesture, that typifies that character. See the character in your mind's eye, copy that, because that's the truth. And slowly copy that, and then you become the character like that, So Michael Chekhov, the I Am, of Dr. Mishra, and then Delsarte. Delsarte was, his discovery of Delsarte was, Francois Delsarte was he was in the 1830s, say, or 1800s.
Turn of the century. Yeah,
right, and he was a singer who turned toward metaphysics in order to explore the art, the unity of the spiritual unity.
The correlation.
Yeah, it was also the very first sort of exploration of body language. And it also used voice because he was a singer. So all those things interrelated, and he was the very first to develop a system of understanding, a science, not a system, but a science of understanding gesture and voice. Based on observation, and he had certain categories, eccentric, concentric, normal in between that. And so what an eccentric movement would be a large movement. When it goes out.
Out, and concentric in. And these had qualities, so the concentric would be
like a witch. A witch is like according to Delsarte, the dark sort of withdraws and goes downward.
Right.
And so a witch, for example, would go more like this.
But a witch is very eccentric too, because
it can be
very eccentric too. Yeah.
But to show the darkness of it, you do this.
Well, the darkness, yeah.
Shyness. Anything shy.
Yes.
It would. Yeah.
But that's sort of like a codified language. Tony always told me that that's something that you understand. You learn it, you practice it, and then you forget all about it because it's there in your unconscious. It's part of your arsenal. It's part of your bank account. So once you've mastered the technique, you forget it and you go for this other.
I think he was always teaching us to let go of the technique. That the technique was just a way to help us communicate more eloquently. But it's not something to get out there and focus on as if this is I am. I
think he transcended Delsarte as well as Michael Chekhov, as well as, I wouldn't say Dr. Mishra's work, because that's the basis or the fundamental part of it. But have you heard of the William James / Lang theory of emotions? You know that? That's the theory that these psychologists came up with independently, that emotion, we think of often the emotion creates the gesture. So if I'm angry, I'll go like that. But in the James Lang theory, it's like this can also create the anger. So I do this in order to justify my anger, and I get real angry then,
That was also Chekhov's the psychological gesture.
Well, the psychological gesture expresses the anger. Let's say my psychological gesture would be this because I'm angry, and the James Lang theory reverses it somewhat in that we can, and this is where Tony, imbibing that, because he spoke of William James, imbibing that comes up with the concept of correlation, that which I think is so liberating, that you can make a movement and you don't have to know Delsarte, you have to know Chekhov. By feeling what this feels like with a certain amount of energy you put into the motion, you already correlate, and you can you suddenly understand who this person is.
As well as human beings, we have an intuitive understanding of gesture.
Yes, absolutely. So I think that intuitive understanding comes directly into improvisation, and we,
I think he talked about the oscillating current between a shape giving you a feeling, and the feeling giving you more shape, and the shape giving you more feeling.
Right, I've heard him express that too, that form leads to content. Let's say my form leads to my feeling something, and that content then evolves the form somewhat, which then evolves the content, and so it goes until we get to the concept of accumulation. Accumulation being that this correlation begins to gather steam, gather energy, and come to some kind of a situation already. So I'm looking in the cave, and then I see the jewel in the wall, and it's already a story, a situation, So that's the accumulation.
I think part also of this work, and especially with improvisation, is to get to a place where you're expanding your own inner wall of boundaries. I have a set vocabulary of movements that I've accumulated over the years, but then
Right.
to be able to improvise, it's stretching it so that if I have my hands here, like what happens when I extend my hand here and I extend my hand here and I take the information that I gather from that and expand who I am as a performer, and as through the improvisation, having it give me more tools to work through. It's a personal growth. It's a challenge. I think the other part about what Tony did was absolutely courageous. Tony was a regular person, but he was fearless in his passion for exploring these other worlds, and I think that's one of the things that has always inspired me.
Yes, and it sort of brings us back to the four tenets of improvisation. The first tenet is what? To see what's coming at you when you're in the magic circle, and then you listen to what wants to happen. Third tenet is to manifest everything. So this is where it gets to be kind of scary. Are you going to really manifest everything that you feel, that you pick up on your impulses? Can you do that? Can you trust that? Can you be that vulnerable, really, right? And finally, escalate. Try to escalate it or move toward some situation. Right? And this we'll be showing examples of that in our work. I wanted to read one poem of Tony's. The poem is called Standpoint. Do not go to destiny. Rather, let it come to you. Standing still, we stand with God. Time disappears, and boredom too. All is happening here and now, and not at distant milestones. And from this center point, we voyage into all directions. Like the rays of centered sun, we touch all things at once, at any time and any place, here, now, and then. So that, I think, is, sort of shows that the power of, can you stand in that space and feel whatever it is, that begins the accumulation, memory or a gesture, awakening something, and can you start, can you voyage, in other words? So would we agree that Tony was a bit of a shaman? A shaman is someone who's voyages into that unconscious
And brings something
and
back.
brings something back, exactly. Because for Tony, improvisation meant you bring something back. You're not just fiddling around out there. You're finding something and bringing something back.
Yes.
And remaining yourself too at the same time. I think was an important part of it, was to know what your ground zero is of who you are, the center part of who you are, and bring everything back to your center, to the zero space.
Tony's approach to improvisation is unique. We don't see it anywhere today. Very few attempt this style of improvisation, but for those who do, we find it very exciting.
We can have
The first thing we're going to do is experience what Tony called absolute zero. Absolute zero is a kind of a neutrality sense. It's a sense of we each have our individual personalities, and in order to improvise properly, we can't get too attached to that. So we want to sort of get into a more universal field of energy where we could as well be a housefly as ourselves. So in order to do that, close your eyes, relax, drop all your tensions, and allow your imagination to begin to suspire through your pores so that now you enter a more universal field of energy, which can become anything. This self-portrait of Tony as teacher centaur I liken to the 3 choreographies he taught in his latter years, symbolized by the 3 egg-like shapes next to him as the teacher centaur. Let's now transit to Tony's exercise of the choreographies. And he devised 3 different choreographies: physical, which is movement, gliding, the dabbing, the pressing, a medley of different movement. And then we'll shift to the emotional choreography. It's like you're tuning into a radio dial, and you're getting this frequency from your gesture. So when you're doing the emotional choreography, always use a certain amount of will energy that then you'll get the much more feedback. And finally, we come to the spiritual choreography, which we're going to do together as a group, and that's the idea that what does the body want to do, and already I'm thrown into an unknown, and but I can get some feedback from it. So let's get up on our feet now. We're going to do the physical choreography and just feel where you're at physically. You can move it any way you want. You see that already we're moving right into the emotional choreography. I see there's some emotional choreography connections. In other words, feel that sense of allow yourself to make connections. It should be effortless, and you don't have to linger on the connection. You can go to another connection. Again, the important thing is the idea of connection. That you have so many doorways that are opening up now. It's a freedom. So many stories. In part 3, we're going to show examples of several styles of improvisation. Number 1 is called the flow. The second style is improvisation with accumulation, and here we are attendant and responsible to our very first moves and atmospheres. Number 3 is what I call the kingfisher dive, a sudden plunge almost instantaneously into a situation that we must now justify. In number 4, the verbal improv, we allow the verbal to be the leader of the improvisation. Number 5 is the verbal surreal improv, and here the only stipulation is that it doesn't make a logical, though it can make a poetic sense. In the 6th, we're going to try duets. And in the 7th style, we are going to all work together as a quartet. The first exercise is called the flow. Here, the improviser is not required to accumulate, but rather can flow in a series of experiences from the imagination. It is a very good warming up exercise and proves to the improviser that there is really no scarcity of things going on.
Anything but pain. That's what they told me. And now, rockets to the moon. My explosion is bigger than yours. Go ahead. We're all dead. I am a walking skeleton from hell who has come to tell you all, stop it now or I will open the gates. The gates are all around.
Hey there, I like what you said now. I like it. Now that lipstick on you, it doesn't work, that purple. No, I don't like that purple. But I like the black, the sheen, the sequence. The sequence, yeah. The sequence, I will tell you the sequence. The sequence is very important. When the molecules of the hydrogen with the oxygen go and mix up like that, you already have water, H2O. When you're going to the bathroom, pee, that's H2O too. Don't say I'm scatological. There's nothing scatological about it. The second exercise is an improvisation with accumulation, which is a little more difficult, and here the improviser is responsible for the very first moves and atmospheres, trying not to dodge and avoid or blasé, but rather to accumulate into a situation.
Now, I want everyone just to breathe. In and out. Now, we shall improvise. Everybody up. Everybody down. Up, down, up, down. Laugh. Stop. That's enough. Back to zero. Attention. This is the way we improvise. Every day you must use your eyes. Memorize it. Tomorrow, 7 a.m. All of you. Hup, hup, and woohoo! Understand? Thank you. The teacher.
Get down there. Get down there. Get down there. Clink.
Blue. Blue. Blue, and a voice that comes in at night that might be a little bit trepidatious. It's okay. It's blue. Yellow. Watch out. Yellow. Yellow burns through every protecting thing that is supposed to keep you from burning. Yellow, it's fear. As yellow and as etiolated as you can imagine, but it's the kind of etiolated that hits the white people. Yes, only the white people, because they are the only ones that turn yellow when they're afraid. Yes, put that pain in my hip, put these nobules in my knees, give me a cane to lean on, and give me a puffed up chest to go out there with my hair all yellow and tell the world, I will keep you safe, only I will keep you safe. Yes, block the borders, to take these people away. They are dangerous until we are alone on our little tiny little island with our diamond eyes. Yes, oh, let's keep all the little people alive, the ones in Africa who are mining the stuff for our cell phones, because if we do not have our devices, God knows we're all gonna go to hell in a straitjacket. I love this country, don't you?
The third exercise I call the Kingfisher Dive. Here, the improviser plunges directly into a situation and tries to justify that situation afterwards. This was a type of improvisation that Jonathan Winters was quite adept at doing.
Just give me 5 minutes. 5 minutes. All right, give me 10. And I will show you what I have in my brain. It says here that the stock market is not doing too well. Now, why is this important? I'll tell you. You give me a few dollars, I'll play the market for you. And if I do good, you'll hear from me. Just put it in the cup. Put your name and address there too. I'll get back to you. Thank you very much. I'd like to put the money in the cup. You laughing at me?
What, are you deaf? You deaf? See this? You see it? It's real. So if you're not deaf, you do what I tell you. Otherwise, kaput. Nothing. Head in a bucket. Understand? Oh, I'm not messing around. You better pay. And you better pay big. If you don't pay big, consequences. My business is built on consequences, you understand? How the fuck do you think I got to be president, huh? See all these knives? All these daggers in my back? It doesn't matter, I'm not really human. I'm a machine. It's easy. I ain't got no fucking feelings. It's easy. Capiche?
The fourth is the verbal improvisation. Here, the verbal is the leader.
One's capacity to understand and to wax poetic depends on a certain alacrity. Yes, alacrity. With bullshit. Yes. If you know how to start in one place with an absolute, undeniable conclusion, if you can start from there and somehow blasé and weave your way through and bring in non sequiturs and perhaps a little bit of fake news and a little bit of that and a little bit of this and a little bit of Tabasco and maybe a little bit of sugar. And if you come up with the right 2- and 3-word tweets, you become a master of manipulating the narrative. And this we have now right in front of our face. And behind our heads, our background perceptions coming out in full force in front of our face, going back to our background perceptions and controlling how we think. It all depends on the ability to manipulate the bullshit. It'll get you anywhere. It's really, really great. It's fantastic.
All rise. Thank you, Your Honor. My client, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, is not guilty. He's been falsely accused, not only in the media, but by his own friends who betrayed him. He's not a pedophile. He's not even a womanizer. His sexual peccadillos, although he was naked, have nothing to do with this case. He was merely hot. Being in a playground was just a matter of circumstance. He had heat stroke and wasn't in his right mind, and was running in a circle trying to find the fountain when he tripped and fell upon a young child. It's all circumstantial evidence. Go ahead, your rebuttal. Yes, I rest my case.
Gastronomy oftentimes leads us to incontrovertible truths that not only scintillate on the sensorium, but castigate from way back when we were sitting on our stools and not eating our pablum. And that spoon came toward us with that disgusting smell. And then we had to take it and gag until finally that spoon wielder would go away for a little while. Now we have our trays, and we give ourselves enough to convict us of a fault that's more powerful than can be seen with the naked eye. And not because the eye itself is naked, but everything that it sees is naked. Therefore, one must be kind, because in slicing through the appearances that afflict the world, we often come upon things that are totally revolting. The fifth, the verbal surreal improvisation, and the only stipulation is that it doesn't make a logical sense, but rather a poetic or disjointed surreal sense develops.
Brandishing the protocol before the life forms went backwards into time and scurried all around the marbles playing pinochle in the spring, and denounced to ourselves the poets were climbing out of the regions of wanderlust and fly-by-night life forms, that too many times was the epaulet going backwards and weighing us down before the kneecaps spouted a sliver and a point came to a point on the playground and the prayer cushions of tomorrow. Why does the vow redound and redeem itself when the resurrection and the insurrection are crashing into knuckles and pinnacles, and the Farmer's Almanac says that the weather's going to be pretty good tomorrow. But do you know that this little thing I'm wearing is not going to suffice when all the clothes go crumbling down into the floor and the decay starts having its own day, and one little exam that you forgot to take yesterday comes hounding you out of the dark with its fangs and screaming that you haven't fulfilled your obligations. That's when you need to go home and have a peanut butter jelly sandwich. That will be the day when all the joints will be oiled and ready for bear. Why does it have to be everybody's negative energy that makes me burp like that? I would rather be a more positive person. But the bowl is just full of Cheerios and all the sugar has fallen to the bottom, and I'm going to get diabetes if I scoop it up and swallow it down, just like I am supposed to do.
We always, when I was this, but then I was that. But I really was best when I was this, but that was not too bad. Only when, do you remember, I don't, but I used to, that if I had the little tiny thing that was, and it went boing, bang, boing, bang, then snot would come down. Oh, everyone laughed and laughed and laughed until it came right down and it started to sink and then stink. And then it turned pink. And then all I could do was wink. No. No, it won't work that way. It never did. Not for you, not for you. Maybe for you. Who knows? Who knows? But the shine is mine. Oh, like drinking wine. It is the sign of the time. I don't mind. Is it a crime? Is there right? Is there wrong? Is there meter? Is there song? Just follow along. You.
Grabbing the attention became, for me, an object on the ground that didn't bounce anymore. I found the tree that was looking at me. I felt the leaf, and then discarding the papers in front of me, I saw the bill that I didn't pay, and I'm not going to pay it because that stinking, I won't even say it, gave that bill to me when I was grudging myself to even have a little bit of an egg, a hard-boiled egg that became a boil on the back of my neck that it broke, and there it was, the Red Sea crossing through. I was Moses, leading my people out from the coruscation of the hot sun in the desert. What happened when we crossed the Red Sea that we should end up on a desert without the manna from heaven? And the silence became a cicada piercing the skull, and the people crying all around, until gathering together we formed the prayer that led to the rain fall. And we knew we'd be okay. Grass would grow, children would play, and we would forget all about it and grow old, happy, rocking to sleep until that tidal wave dream emerged again. In the sixth, we're going to try duets.
Knock, knock, knock. It's opportunity. Smiling at you every day. Come on, people. You know you want it, you know you need it. Step right up, step right up, step right up. Got plenty of opportunity for you here, there, everywhere. It's around you all the time. You just got to wake up. Wake up, everybody. Grab that opportunity. Ride it to the sun. You know you can. Come on, people. Come on, stand up. Raise your hands. Raise your hands. Can you feel the opportunity all around you? You can feel it. I can feel it. You've got it. You've got the opportunity inside you. All you have to do, my friend, all you have to do is open yourself up to it. There it is. There it is. Just as much opportunity as you need. That's right. Opportunity all around you, all around you, all around you, all the time. Hey, What's the matter, man? Smile! Put that smile on your face. Don't frown, it's a disgrace. That's right, smile. Look like you're a winner, and you are a winner. Come on, shine with the glow. That's it. That's it, everybody. See this? This man knows what it's all about. This man can do it. Hey, it's just a pitch. It's just a pitch. Look, here. It was just a pitch. It's just a pitch. I'm going.
Who is it? Hello?
Hello?
Hello? You?
Yeah.
You're here.
Hi,
Come
Dad.
on in. Come on in.
Hi, Dad.
It's good to see you. What do you need? What's the matter? What's the matter?
Here are the car keys.
What happened to the car?
That's all that's left.
You all right?
Oh,
You all right?
yeah.
Car doesn't. I don't care about the car. It's insured. You ain't. You know. What
Thanks,
happened?
Dad.
Well, tell me. What happened? You okay?
Well, you know your favorite dog?
I hate that dog. That dog is, yeah. But you're all right.
Yeah, but the dog isn't okay.
That's okay.
Yeah.
The dog, huh?
Yeah.
Was it quick?
Very quick.
Good.
It was as quick as the car.
Mm.
And you know the stuff you had in the trunk?
The dead bodies? You found them?
They just fell out of they fell out.
Now that's a problem. Did you put them back in, I hope, like a good girl, like you should?
No, I didn't even know they were there. I called 911.
But you're okay. Good. You're okay.
Here they come.
Here comes the dog. That's okay. That's okay. You know, it's about time. It's about time. Yeah.
You have a right to remain silent.
I ain't
Anything
gonna.
you say can be used against you in the
Ah,
court.
it's about time. You know.
Boom, 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 boom.
Yes, sir, that's my baby. No, sir, that don't mean maybe. Yes, sir, that's my baby.
Your mother's here now.
Oh, good.
Yeah, thank
My
you.
mother?
Thank you, Mrs. Jones. It's been a delight.
mother?
He's got real talent. Absolute talent, yes.
Mom.
Yes, the Well, auditions maybe next year.
Next year? Maybe.
Thank you, Mrs. Jones. Perhaps a little more work.
That time more.
Um, I said perhaps you can do the auditions next year.
Why not now?
If you insist.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That was so. It ain't gonna be that easy. Not this time. That's the spirit.
I think that suits you very well, Mr. McGillicuddy.
I'm going to be wearing it at my daughter's wedding.
Yes.
Do you think they'll notice me as I walk down the aisle with her?
Well, I don't think they will notice unless you draw attention to it.
Yes, the vest is a little, I can't seem to close the vest with this particular tweed.
How's that?
Good.
Very good.
Pretty good.
Yes, and now you don't have to hold your stomach up, right? Oh, yes, that looks...
Oh, I think they're going to like this in the greens.
It's hot.
They're going to like this in the greens.
In the greens?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. When we go to the pub, you know, we have a bit of whatnot.
Oh.
And eggnog as well.
Then you need one of these hats.
Oh,
Yes.
let's see.
That is a drinking hat if ever I saw it.
Rather raffish on me, isn't it?
Yes, it's ravishing.
Sort of reminds me of when I was in the circulation, as they say.
Yes. And here is...
Try it on me, why don't you? You go and try it on me.
It doesn't go that way.
Oh, how do you wear such an apparatus?
Yeah. Put it around the midsection.
I thought I was going to do this. No, I won't hang myself after all. I'm going to get things ready for my daughter, and she's going to have a lovely life,
Yes.
I tell you. We may have lost the farm. She's no longer milking there, you know.
You lost the farm.
We lost the farm.
Well, this is
But we-
way too expensive for you. And this, and that.
No, I have the money.
How
I
much?
don't understand. I have the money.
You do.
Yes, I have the money. I have it all in shillings.
Shillings.
Coppers and shillings. I have a whole bag full in the trunk of my wheelbarrow. Unless you'll take dried dung instead. I have a few chips, about 100 of them. They're good chips. With chips like that, you don't need to eat.
No.
The smell of it will knock you out, you see. And then you don't need to eat anymore, and you can save a meal or two. And then you can go down to the pub and have a bit of a drink. And remember the old times when Molly and me were dancing along on the greens.
Well, I just don't know what to say.
So, May I call you Katie? This painting Tony did, called The Odyssey, symbolizes for me the seeming perils of going out onto the deck to improvise, under the towering waves of our own fears, perhaps. Yet if one looks carefully, one sees behind those waves our protective guardian energies, male and female, to guide and support us by way of correlation, the oblique, or other aspects we have explored and spoken of. To quote Tony's own words in his book, Mime Spoken Here, no one goes into an improvisation cold. Everyone is equipped with personal, ethnic, and racial memories, a history, an education, and skills. Everyone has acquired likes and dislikes. All of life is a preparation for improvisation. Timmy, get off that, will you? Come on. Come on, you're going to hurt yourself. I don't like to see you do that, Timmy.
Go away.
Timmy, please.
Go away.
You're grounded, kid. You're grounded.
I'm gonna be grounded.
You're grounded. You wait. You wait and see when Mommy comes home. I see Mommy now. She's gonna fix your wagon.
Yeah.
Yes.
I ain't got a wagon.
Timmy!
What?
Your favorite person is here.
Who?
He doesn't listen to me.
Bradley.
Bradley?
Yeah. Bradley.
Hey, Timmy, it's me! Hey, Timmy, I'm coming up!
No, Bradley.
Boing, 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 boing.
Let's call the parents.
Get me out!
Oh, God.
Let's do it again!
No, you're not. I'm gonna rope you up now, Tim. Come on, let's go.
I never get to do anything. See, I told you, Timmy, they wouldn't let us do it.
Hold on. I
We
got the
have
leash on him
something
now.
much better for
I
you.
got the leash on him now. He's
Get the
not
leash
doing
on me
anything.
again.
Better than the ankle bracelet.
You got the ankle again?
Yeah,
Bradley?
That's what they do to children here now.
that's
here-
why I
That's
fell.
what they do to children.
Here's your medicine.
Oh, no, Tim. Don't do that, Timmy. Come
I'm
on.
motivated.
Here, take your pills.
Tim.
Take your pills. There you go.
Okay, Tim. Come on. Come on. You're feeling a lot
Look
better
at
now.
Bradley. Look how good
Bradley's
he rocks back
doing
and
good.
forth. This-
He's stimulating again. He's
Yeah.
self-stimulating.
See, Bradley
See?
is quiet
It's
now.
fun.
Bradley is quiet.
Bradley is quiet.
Okay.
I can't let go of the glass.
I think I'm gonna knock down the wall, Deary. I'm gonna knock down the wall because they're putting
I
a watch
will,
on it. I
Bradley,
think. Oh,
It's okay.
goddamn stinking son of a bitch! All of them.
Here, honey. Honey. And let's-
I don't like it when he yells.
Jill.
When he yells, my head feels like it's going to explode.
Swallow. Pill. We're all a bunch of losers.
This improvisation is dysfunctional.
It's dysfunctional.
I think we got to the pith of it. The four of us out there, we all got to the pith
We don't need
of
to
what
do
this
that.
was.
We nail that sucker.
Tony's 4 tenets of improvisation. Read what is coming at you. 1, 2. Listen. to your impulses. 3, manifest everything that you feel in the moment. And 4, accumulate and escalate toward some situation. Absolute 0, and Dr. Mishra's I am, a state of neutrality. We are common with all humanity and able to sensitize ourselves to everything. The Akashic records, akin to the collective unconscious of the universe, not even leaving out lesser sentient beings. Francois Delsarte and the codifying of gesture. In addition to normal eccentric and concentric distinctions for Francois Delsarte, he also divided the body into the physical, the emotional, and the mental spheres. So the mental being the head, the feet, and the hands, the emotional being the heart, the open leg and the open arm, and the physical being the shoulders, the thighs, and the stomach. Each region, again, can be subdivided. So if we take the hand, a mental part of the body, that can be subdivided into the fingertips as the mental part of the mental hand, the open palm is the emotional part of the mental hand, and the heel of the hand, or the back of the hand, as the physical part. So if one wishes to express affection, one uses the palm, for instance. These and other topics are gone into in great depth and detail in the book, The System of Oratory. It is a book well recommended to all artists of any stripe. Michael Chekhov's psychological gesture. Michael Chekhov invented the term psychological gesture. It is the gesture that an actor may use to symbolize the entire essence of a particular character he or she is working on. In the book To the Actor, Michael Chekhov goes into many other fascinating topics that an actor may use in his work, such as using the imagination, imbuing atmosphere, and radiating qualities. These are all essential things that Tony learned and taught his students, and I recommend this book to all. The James Lang theory of emotion, that the physical stimulates the emotion. Correlation, a direct result of Delsarte, Chekhov, and the James Lang theory of emotions, in which a gesture already reads to the unconscious a story, an intuition of something about to happen. Biaise is a term Tony often used to describe when an improviser aborts a growing accumulation because it is not within that improviser's comfort range, or simply because he failed to recognize the accumulation or correlation at the time and instead floated like a butterfly on to the next series of impulses. It is a French word meaning to dodge or avoid, and was used as a sort of pejorative because one was not sensitive in the moment to the impulses that were occurring just then. Notwithstanding all that said on Biaise as a general guideline, I must mention the playful experimentation of Jack Golden, who has made an art form of improvisational verbal biaise, moving from one image seamlessly to the next in a kaleidoscope of transformation that is quite captivating in its own right. We approach this strategy when we do our verbal, surreal improvisations in part 3. The term oblique means to actively court the unconscious impulses, to jump the gun, as it were, on what wants to happen, and to actively seek What lies outside the ken of one's safe, predictable improvisation? Beyond the campfire, the glowing eyes lurking in the dark. It implies opening the aperture to let in more light. It implies opening the whale's maw to strain through its baleen more red herring. It is an active impulse. As such, it should be used rather sparingly because it could indeed undermine the growing accumulation. It is sort of like a centripetal force, and the accumulation more like a gathering or centrifugal force. So a little bit goes a long way. Like a strong spice, it could add piquancy, give strange, new, and novel ideas to an improvisation, and give it a good, strong flavor. But in general, the rule of thumb in improv is to allow to happen what wants to happen, and to trust that if one is receptive and alert, something will occur. Eventually, the sense of the oblique itself becomes an aspect of asking oneself what wants to happen now, which becomes innate in the improviser. And one instinctively knows when to court the unconscious, as one feels oneself straying into the still, becalmed waters of the predictable. Here is Karen on the oblique, a term which she herself invented.
After Tony died, I was left with many questions about, he left me with such a hunger for what he knew. And one of the things I realized that for me, Tony-style improvisation was about fear and really being free. Nina Simone says that to be free is to be really without fear. And I thought improvisation is what will happen naturally when you trust that you're inspired, that the spirit is there, and everything you need is right there. You just have to pay attention and let it be revealed. So for myself, I decided I'm going to go right after what I'm afraid of. And as a dancer, I really wasn't afraid of movement, but I was very afraid of words. I'm not natural with words. They don't come out of my subconscious. I have a lot of editing that goes on. So I invented this thing called the oblique, which means that I'm going to start saying something, and as soon as I know what I'm saying, I'm going to derail myself so that I am never holding on to the effort to make sense. I'm never holding on to the effort to do something. I'm not going to go into an agenda mode. I'm just going to slap myself silly until all the fears are out of the channels of expression. I remember watching Tony teach a class in the barn one time, the Celebration Barn, and he did this one exercise one time, and I never saw him do it again. But he had all the students just go across the front of the celebration stage and then come around the back and go across, so they didn't stop. And he would say, okay, this time you're going across and you're going to just make up some kind of rhythm. And now you put in some kind of sound with the rhythm. And they were just going back and forth. And now tell the story, be a character, be an animal. And I was sitting there as a ballet dancer with all my fear of not being perfect, and I was just taking notes. And I saw these people look bad. I thought they looked stupid. Oh, I'd never do that. Within a minute, within seconds, they all were touching on what I thought was miraculous. Oh my gosh, that's fantastic. It just took a matter of seconds. And I wrote in my journal, I said, they're blowing the sludge out of their channels of self-expression. That's what I saw happening. So when I started to improvise on my own without my beloved teacher there to help me and direct me and to, reinforce my trust, when I was doing it for myself, I just thought, all right, I'm going to just make up something that I'm afraid of and blow the fear out of my channels of self-expression. So that's what I call the verbal oblique.
I discovered a concept I call requisite energy, which means that if you make a gesture, it doesn't necessarily add up to anything unless you're putting a certain amount of free-form energy, which is undefined energy. You don't know the intention of the gesture yet, but you do need an energy behind the gesture, or you won't be able to feel what that gesture means in terms of correlation. So, for instance, if I put my hand up, I'm told in the book that means no or stop. I'm not feeling no or stop here, but if I put my hand up like that with enough energy, oh yes, I'm feeling no or stop, and I might even begin to imagine who it is that I want to stop from coming forward toward me, because my imagination is already hooked into my gesture.
One of Tony's favorite words that kept coming up in improv training practice was the word correlation. And he would say it in so many ways, trying to get this idea across to us that what we're doing, usually we'd worry so much about what we're doing. He said, what you're doing is not as important as what you're doing is doing to you. That there's what is happening to the viewer outside, but then the improviser has to be sensitive to what that is doing to him or her. So another concept that helps with the correlation idea is the requisite energy. For example, if you take a gesture and part of you is worried, oh, what do I do with that gesture? It seems like nothing. I don't have any ideas. What that means is that part of you is doing the gesture and the other part is worrying about the gesture. So you want to put the part that's worrying about the gesture, be more attentive to the gesture than your comment on the gesture. And then you can get this correlative exchange between what you're doing and what it does to you, so that eventually you're not making a comment and you're not fretting about what you're doing. You're just 100% experiencing what is given, what is happening right now. Tony would say at different times, buy it. Buy whatever you do. The first instinct is to doubt what you're doing, to really try to make it interesting. You think, I know in my own mind the background voices will say, oh, Karen, that's the wrong move. There's nothing going on here. And Tony repeatedly said, it's full. It's already there. It's only your worry about it that makes it so. So he would say, buy it, or let it get to you. Let it get to you. Any gesture, see where it goes.
Tony's own prodigious ability to buy it can be read in the book Mime Spoken Here, in which he speaks of his improvisation as an ant. He didn't show the ant from the human perspective, but rather decided to become the ant just to see what would happen to him. And he experienced extreme physical discomfort to the point at which he felt his waist tighten and constrict and his chest enlarge. In that experience, the physical sensations were such that he groaned as he experienced it, as it happened genuinely. It happened in the moment. It wasn't something he was making up. He was so fully involved in being the ant. This anecdote and other wonderful pearls of wisdom can be read in the book Mime Spoken Here. In this quartet of photos, Tony shows the power of correlation. Each photo stands independent, though they are connected in serial movement. We can see the discrete and subtle effect that little changes of outer form have on the inner life, and vice versa. So inner expresses outer, which expresses inner, which is the very definition of correlation, and what we are aiming to do when we improvise. One thing I have taken away from our experiences in the sacred circle is, when we are up on our feet, we all may feel the pressure of time to do something. We might grasp at straws and will-o'-the-wisps. But if we are present and can bore into the moment, though we may feel we are crossing the border of the now with dubious papers to identify ourselves, if we can relax in the moment and expand the space of absolute zero, correlate and accumulate from that point of entry, transcending the doubts of our own egos, curiosity replacing fear, those papers will be stamped and validated by the wild hooves of Pegasus. Lies will become truth, and we will begin to soar to places hitherto unknown. Many thanks to my friends and intrepid voyagers joining me on this quest. Karen Montanaro, Lee Faulkner, Rick Adam, and videographer and film editor Michael Maness. This is Bernie Kramer wishing you the joys of many flights on Pegasus, discovering new worlds.